So I kind of forgot about one of my Marvel books. And that is Ultimate X-Men Volume 1 and 2. Um, the the Ultimate X-Men version is very different to the 616 version of Marvel. Um, and I do think if you are looking for something a bit different, then Ultimate X-Men is definitely a good book. Um, it it focuses more. The difference with Ultimate X-Men and normal X-Men is I feel like Ultimate X-Men focuses more on the fact that they're in the real world. Um, that that in the Ultimate X-Men universe, the real world treats mutants way more harshly than the 616 universe does. And in fact, a lot of characters are quite surprising in this book. And I love Charles Xavier in this book. Um, it's one of my favourite aspects about this book is the fact that Charles Xavier is so proactive. Charles Xavier really fights for the mutant cause and doesn't just say he's fighting for the mutant cause. He's actually fighting for the mutant cause. And he's doing it in quite a interesting way. And it's very, very different. It's if you click on my review for it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But just it's a very different book, and I think I kind of actually do prefer the Ultimate X-Men to the 616 X-Men in where they go with this. I think it's a very, very realistic take on the X-Men franchise. And I also do kind of wonder whether it would be the direction that if Marvel Studios got back the rights to X-Men, I kind of wonder if this is where, if this is the take that the movies would take, and whether a lot of their source material would come from the Ultimate X-Men line. Yeah. So, now we get on to, I was gonna do DC. I decided to change my mind, because I actually have less books in regards to my... I have less independent stuff, and it's more easier to give you guys that now, and then sort out my DC stuff. Because I have, I think, a lot more DC books than I do Marvel books at the minute. Although I'd have to check. So anyway, Witchblade Volume 1 and Volume 2. These books are very, very different to anything I would ordinarily read. And I actually really like Witchblade. It's a book that I definitely want to start getting more into. Because I just think the universe is so fascinating and so different to anything that I've read. In, I believe, either last year's Comic-Con or the last year's before that, I believe they did state that they were making a Witchblade movie. It's kind of disappeared out of thin air, and not a lot's been told about what's happening if they are making a movie or not. But I would love to see The Witchblade as a movie. And again, Witchblade is just one of my favourite comics that I've read. Because she's just so different. I think the Rebirth series might be too straight, whereas I think if I were to read some of the older stuff, I would get what's happening with Volume 1 and 2, and be able to appreciate the direction that Top Cow went with the series. But Witchblade is a very, very, very good comic. The Darkness, not so much. I didn't enjoy the Darkness nearly as much. And I think the part of the problem is with the Witchblade and the Darkness is you need to know a lot about the universe itself and how these characters got to a point they are in at the moment. And I preferred Witchblade a bit better than I did the Darkness. Mainly because I don't really get the character of the Darkness. But yeah. Sex Criminals Volume 1. My god, I love this book. I really, really liked this book. There were just so many great aspects to this book that I really, really enjoyed. Sex Criminals is basically sex education mixed in with good storytelling, and fun little jokes. It's a very, very fun story, and that's what I love about Sex Criminals. Is it's so different to anything I've read out of comics. I can't wait for Volume 2 to come out. And honestly, I think this book is great for young teens. Recently, I was having a discussion on Beyond the Trailers. Or, well, it wasn't so much a discussion, it was more like I was stating something. But recently it feels like stuff like Twilight, stuff like these 50 Shades of Grey aren't portraying relationships that are concrete, that are real. And that they're portraying damaging relationships and showing them to people and saying, you know, this is a good, awesome relationship. And I kind of like what Sex Criminals is doing in this book is it portrays a relationship that, yeah, is slightly damaging, but it's a relationship that's a real one. And that is what I love about this book. And I think this book is excellent for young teens who are trying to understand their bodies a bit more, trying to understand the way their world works. Because young adults don't know a lot about sex. And I think sex is such a taboo. I think the problem is with sex is that it's become such a taboo subject, and we need more books like Sex Criminals, because we need kids to be educated in not just sex, but how to maintain a healthy relationship, what makes healthy relationships work, and the importance of that healthy relationship. And it sometimes really bothers me, the fact that we don't have more of these healthy relationship type books being told in some kind of form of entertainment. Anyway, click the next link here to go on to the DC trades. Okay, it turns out I actually own a bit more DC books than I do Marvel or Independent. So I'm not sure how long this particular video is going to be, but we'll give it a whirl. So I'm gonna do the expanded DC multiverse bits first, mainly relating to video games and TV shows, and then I will do actual DC stuff. And of course, if you know me and this channel and my love for this series, then you know what's coming. Injustice Gods Among Us Volume 1. And these are all single issue books. And my god, I love them. I absolutely freaking love this series. Tom Taylor did such a good job on Volume 1 and 2. And he's made me fall in love with this series. And he's definitely inspired me to play the video game. I believe this is that Volume 4 is going to be the last book leading into Volume 5, which is obviously the video game. So this book is one of my favourite books of all time, coming out of DC. What I really liked about the first year of Injustice is the first year of Injustice is basically DC's version of Civil War. We have characters fighting each other. We have characters fighting villains. We have villains and heroes teaming up together to fight Superman and his new regime. And it's done so well. There are a few little bits that I do question within the book, of course, because everyone is going to have their problems with the way their favourite characters are depicted in this kind of storytelling. But Tom Taylor does something which I really like. And sometimes it does mean you have to make certain characters go out of character. Tom Taylor basically writes a love letter to DC fans. And he basically expands and tells the story of parts from the old 52 and the new 52. And he basically just explores the kind of questions that I think a lot of fans have often had with this story, or with this type of storytelling. Injustice Gods Among Us is a very, very Year One is just a very, very, very good book. And if you haven't picked up Injustice, or you have been thinking about picking up Injustice, pick it up. It is well worth the read. Especially Volume 1 and Volume 2. Pick up this book. You won't regret your choice. It is a really, really good book. And Volume 2 is again the exact same thing. But Volume 2 centers around the Green Lantern Corps, and in each of the books you will see a certain type of theme. In the first book, the theme was heroes versus heroes. In this book, it's about Superman's regime versus the Green Lantern Corps, and there are a lot of really interesting bits being told here about the Green Lantern mythology, about what happened to Krypton, about just so many elements in this book that I just really, really liked. I cannot express how much I loved this book and loved this story. And again, it's well worth picking up. Volume 3 is still good, it's still consistently good. I just think Volume 3 doesn't quite measure up to the first two. And I think this is mainly because I don't understand the magic side of DC. But Year 3 basically is all about Marvel, and you are getting a review of this in the near future. But Year 3 is all about the mystical side of DC. And it's a side of DC that I will be honest, I don't think I understand. And it's sort of led to my not really understanding the book in its direction. But again, it's still a good read. And it gets a lot better towards the end. Volume 3 is the book where Tom Taylor left DC. And I do think that kind of plays into the quality of the book as well. The quality is still high. It's just to me it felt like there was a disinterest here. And it's a shame that he left the book when he did. If he had, and I kind of feared that this was gonna happen to the book, because the book was doing so well, and now Tom Taylor's left. I am worried about the book's future, and I am hoping on hopes that Volume 4 is the last book, for this series. Because as much as I love Injustice, I would love for it to end as well. I would love to be able to go back and read through the first one, through the first year, all the way through until the game, and then play the game. It's something that I very, very much want to do. So that's Injustice Gods Among Us. So the next book is Arrow Volume 1. Based on the hit TV show, currently in its 3rd season, which I am reviewing. So subscribe to my channel for the Arrow Season 3 reviews. And I do have I do have the Arrow Season 1 reviewed. I just didn't get around to doing the last 3 episodes. But if you click the link here, you'll see the Arrow, both the Arrow review and the TV review for the Season 1. That was complicated. Anyway, this series isn't very good. I believe 2.5 is a bit better, because it actually follows a story. But Arrow, but the Arrow comics weren't very good. They were basically self-contained stories, which kind of didn't need to be told, and it's not worth reading this book. We could guess half of it, from the show, and I don't think the book was needed. I do not recommend picking up Volume 1. I don't know about Volume 2, because Volume 2 has, at the end of Volume 2, it has a ending. There are certainly interesting bits about this book. It's just, I don't think it's worth picking up. To be perfectly honest. So that's that. The next book is the Smallville. Smallville Season 11, which is the continuation of the Smallville TV show. The first one being Guardian. The next one being Detective. Detective. Give me a minute. The first one being Detective. Guardian. Detective rather. The next volume is Smallville, Haunted, which is a Flash-centric story. We also have Effigy, like an annual one-shot type thing. Argo, the Argo volume with Doomsday. With Argo, Valkyrie, and finally, Smallville issue, and then Olympus. What I really liked about these books. Oh, and sorry, and Hollow. What I really liked about the Smallville comics were the Smallville comics did a really good job at creating did a really good job at creating an expanded universe for this story. And they just did such a brilliant job at expanding the Smallville universe and giving fans what they've always wanted. We've always wanted to see Batman in the Smallville universe. We got Wonder Woman as well. This haunted arc is probably one of the best arcs from Smallville. It's really interesting. Greatly expands the Smallville's version of Flash, and we also get to see Jay Garrick as well. It expands so much into this universe, which was for a long time my comic book show. It was a part of the reason why Smallville was part of the reason why I got into comic books, and I think Smallville did such a good job at making season 11 really special. I have done a few reviews of Smallville, but stopped doing the reviews because it wasn't getting the reviews out there. But if you love Smallville, and if you love Superman and the old 52, do pick up this book. It's worth picking up. And it can sometimes be easy for, I think, people to sometimes forget that just because Smallville wasn't the best of shows, it still has good storytelling here, especially in season 11, where it gets into the anti-monitors. Really good TV show, really good story. Do pick it up if you can, and also remember, Smallville is the reason why we are getting Arrow and Flash, and why those shows are so successful. I have said it for a long time, I think, that the Smallville laid the groundwork for Arrow and Flash to be successful. Because Smallville played around with a lot of the elements that CW needed to build better and bigger shows. And I think Smallville shouldn't be underestimated for that. And it certainly shouldn't be underestimated about what it did for shows that we are enjoying now. Click here for part 2 of the DC trades. This is a very big video. And stay tuned for more.